Hi everyone, this is the Entrep Guru, Avinash Ramsbag, and I'm here to present to you all on the successes versus pitfalls of entrepreneurship. We're going to take a look at the factors that contribute to the success of entrepreneurs. Now, there are many factors, as you would see here: having in-depth knowledge of the business, building a viable business model, using lean startup principles, knowing when to pivot, having a solid business plan, effective management of financial resources, understanding financial statements, having the right team, effective management of people, having a competitive edge, and maintaining a positive attitude. We'll start with the first one, which is having in-depth knowledge of the business. Now, it's important that an entrepreneur understands as much as they could about their business, because at the end of the day, they are the ones who have to make decisions, and therefore, the more that they know, such as you would see here, the industry, the market dynamics, customer behavior, the better they will be able to make a more effective decision. All right. So we move on now to our next point. The next one is building a viable business model. Now, what is a business model? Is that it is looking at how a business creates, delivers, and captures value. Now, if it is that we build a proper business model, then we will be able to understand where we are getting money from. We're able to understand why people would want to come to our business. We will be able to understand what sets us apart from everyone else. We also take a look at using lean startup principles. Now, in this case, instead of a business trying to put out as much as they could in terms of trying to develop one final product, they can actually start off with a minimum viable product and be able to test and see whether it is that customers like the product or not, and then afterwards they will be able to add or take away from it. The next area is knowing when to pivot. Sometimes it is that, we have our plans made out in our mind, and we know where we want to go, and we want to head in that particular direction, but sometimes things don't go as we plan. And therefore, it may make sense for us to know, okay, you know what, at this point in time, I need to change along the way. So recognizing the need to adapt, recognizing the need to change, flexible, it's very important for entrepreneurs to ensure that they succeed. The next area that we'll take a look at is having a solid business plan. Now, what would a business plan do? A business plan sets a sense of direction. It's a roadmap. It tells you where you need to go. It can be a basis for measuring performance. It can be a basis for communication to other persons. And therefore, if it is that you develop a proper business plan, then it helps in terms of setting that direction that you would like to go in. So it makes it a little easier for the entrepreneur, and also he can actually communicate to his workers, he can communicate to potential investors as to where they would like to go. Moving on to the next point, we are looking at effective management of financial resources. We are looking at cash, we are looking at our profits, we are looking at any form of finances that our business is in charge of. And at the end of the day, if we do not keep a proper record, if we don't figure out how to budget properly, if we don't understand how we are spending that money, if we don't understand how we are receiving the money, then we would not be able to make proper decisions when it comes to our finances. So being able to understand how our cash flows within our business is very important. And therefore, if we find a way to manage it properly, it ensures that we are able to allocate that money to areas where it will maximize our profits. Next one is understanding financial statements. There are many entrepreneurs that, they understand the basics of financial statements, but truly understanding, what exactly is a profit? What exactly do I mean that my assets are equal to my liabilities plus capital, right? If it is that I am seeing that my expenses are too high, do I understand what that means? So having a basic understanding of financial statements, it can help entrepreneurs, right? You don't want to have somebody in charge of your financial statements as an entrepreneur, and then you yourself don't understand, and then they can take advantage of you. The entrepreneur can take a look at financial statements and they can be able to tell a story as to what is taking place in their business. We move on to having the right team. Having the right team is very important. An entrepreneur may not have all of these skills that is necessary to run a business. And it's important for them to understand that. And if it is that they are able to understand that, then they will be able to think about who can come into this business that will add to my business, who will add strengths, who will be able to work with me as the entrepreneur, right? Who will be able to add to what I am doing. So having the right team is always important. You want people to add, you don't want people to take away from your business. And an entrepreneur needs to be able to do a self-evaluation and understand where they're stronger and where they are weaker. We also have effective management of people. It's important for an entrepreneur to lead and lead by example. Communicate effectively. Some of the best persons with ideas, they're really, really good. Steve Jobs was an example of that, really, really good, but had at one time had a lot of issues when it came to communicating his vision to business. So we want to ensure that we are able to lead by example. We want to make sure that we are able to communicate, we can resolve conflict, we have empathy, we can relate to people, because that is very important in terms of getting people to follow your vision as an entrepreneur. So if it is that you don't get people to follow your vision, then effectively you can become very inefficient ineffective as an entrepreneur. Next one is having a competitive edge. We want to make sure that we have something that stands out from everyone else. And I always tell people, make sure that that competitive edge is something that is sustainable, something that can keep you ahead of the competition. So you don't want to say, okay, well, I reduced my price by 10 cents. Yes, it might set you apart from the competition for one day, but then afterwards the competitors might turn and reduce their price. How else do you stand out from the competitors? So try to think about things that can help you stand out, but not stand out just for a temporary period of time, but for a prolonged period of time. And that is what I mean by sustaining that competitive edge. We want to also maintain a positive attitude. Entrepreneurs are faced with many challenges along the way. And if it is that they don't maintain that positive attitude, eventually it may get to them and they may decide, you know what, I'm going to just stop. I'm not going to continue in entrepreneurship. Or they may just continue and just be demotivated. So you want to ensure that you do as much as possible to maintain that positive attitude. And it may mean having a positive work-life balance. So balancing it with work, right? Entrepreneurial work, obviously, and also doing other things. We move on now to the potential mistakes and pitfalls in entrepreneurship. The first one is human resource failures. And before I continue, I just want to point out, we speak about these as failures, but really and truly it's really challenges that we speak of. So when we talk about human resource failures, some of the things that we can have, if we take a look back at what we just saw with regards to our reasons for the success of entrepreneurs, we will have realized that one of them spoke to leadership. And if it is that the entrepreneur is not leading properly, then what can happen is that persons may not work in the direction that they need to go in. They would not work in line with the vision, they would not work in line with the objectives of the organization, and ultimately the organization will not be able to achieve their ultimate aim. If the entrepreneur also lacks experience, sometimes they don't understand how to run a business, especially when we talk about novice entrepreneurs. They don't understand how to run a business, they are first-time entrepreneurs, and therefore they may be very slow in terms of learning, and it may take some time. And because of this, it can cause challenges for the entrepreneur. So it means that as time goes along, the entrepreneur needs to develop their knowledge in the area. We also have operation failures. And one of the operational failures that we deals with poor inventory management. Now, this is in terms of stocking. So on a day-to-day basis, right, we are supposed to be keeping track of our stock. If our stock is too low, what can happen is that customers can come to my business to purchase something and realize that I do not have that item. What happens the customer just decides, you know what, you don't have it, I'll go to a competitor. I've lost that competitor now. If I have too much of stock now, what can happen is that I have to find somewhere to store that stock. Means that I have to get more storage, which incurs a cost. So therefore, in that case now, I'm also incurring extra costs just to keep that extra stock. So the whole idea here is to figure out the optimum amount of stock that I should purchase, right? And for those of you who do things like management of business and accounts, you would know about the term EOQ, economic order quantity, which tells you the optimum amount of stock that you should purchase at any point in time. Poor planning. Planning, if it is that you are not able to plan in terms of your production schedules, if you're not able to plan in terms of deliveries, in terms of ordering, right, in terms of dealing with your suppliers, in terms of getting your products out to your retailers, if you don't plan properly, then as the saying says, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. Right? And it results in a lot more issues, as you see, dissatisfaction on the part of customers, and also increased costs. We also have marketing as an issue. And so a marketing failure can result in, one, you can have a weak marketing strategy. So the entrepreneur, if they don't understand that market that they are targeting, imagine you want to sell a product to somebody and you don't know who that person is. You don't know who you are selling it to. So therefore, what will happen is that you wouldn't know how to price. You wouldn't know what they want exactly, right? You wouldn't know where they're located. You wouldn't know how to market, how to promote that product to them. So at the end of the day, if you don't do proper market research itself and understand that market, then you would end up in a situation where you will have a poor marketing strategy. Uncontrolled growth. There are some businesses that they just grow too fast. And sometimes when a business grows too fast, they start to develop inefficiencies. They can end up with what we call diseconomies of scale. They have disadvantages because of growing too large. So sometimes it is they start to grow too large and the managers cannot manage all of the employees properly. They start to grow too large and then afterwards they may have to hire additional persons who may not be as trained. They start to grow too large, you may not have enough supplies available from your current supplier, so therefore you have to go to someone else and they may charge you more or they may not be as good in terms of quality. So sometimes you have to make sure and ensure that you time it properly, right? You time it properly to ensure that you don't end up in a situation where you have diseconomies of scale. Poor location. Some persons choose just a poor location overall. Sometimes you decide that you may set up your business where you live, but you may not have enough persons passing at that point in time. You are not close enough to the market, right? So sometimes you have to take a look at your location itself. It will help with regards to your visibility, whether people are seeing your business. It will help with regards to accessibility, right? And also, you may also have to take a look at not just the physical location, but who you distribute to and how far or how many people have you distributed to. That also affects accessibility. We also need to take a look at incorrect pricing. Sometimes we price too high, sometimes we price too low. And we also have to understand that sometimes pricing has an effect in terms of how persons perceive your product. I might decide that I'm reducing my price and then persons might look at my product as inferior. I might decide that I'm increasing my price and that might be determined to be a better quality product. Sometimes it might go against the norms of what we know. So pricing is very important, but what is even more important is that we understand that market research, if we realize all of these weaknesses, market research, the effectiveness of it is the foundation behind all of this to make sure that we don't have these failures occurring. We also have financial failures, and the first one that we take a look at is for financial control. Sometimes it is that we don't allocate our resources properly, our financial resources. Sometimes it is that we have, because of financial constraints, we may have one person collecting money and recording it at the same time. We don't have things such as separation of duties. And therefore, what can happen is that your business can suffer if it is that we don't establish these internal controls for your business that could end up leading to you losing money along the way. We also have inadequate record keeping. Sometimes it is that, especially entrepreneurs who don't understand financial statements properly, they do what we call incomplete records. So they just make notes. And when they make these notes, sometimes they miss. And we also have what we call the double entry system of recording. So if you make a note, sometimes you may, let's say, you purchase stock and you forgot to put, how did I purchase that stock? Did I purchase it using cash that I had on me? Did I purchase it using a check? Did I just take it on credit from the person, right? Sometimes these may not be things that the entrepreneur might think about all the time, and they may miss things. So it is important that they ensure that they keep proper records, because that is what will make sure that they keep track also of their financials. We also have to understand that failure is a natural part of the process. Some entrepreneurs, they fear that term failure. But if it is that we understand this properly, failure does not have to be the end of anything. Failure can be learning opportunities. So if it is that the entrepreneur faces a so-called failure, I look at it as a challenge. And if it is that the entrepreneur faces these challenges, it is important that they try to understand where they have gone wrong, what they can do differently. And if they understand that, then it will help them to understand what they can do better next time, and therefore eventually lead to success. We also have timing. Sometimes it is that an entrepreneur enters the market too early, meaning that, they have a product that, it will be very nice, very good for the market. We watch it and we say, yes, it's good for the market. But at that point in time, people don't catch on. And therefore, it takes some time to build. So sometimes if it is that you enter too early, it may take too long for the entrepreneur to start to make on it. And then on the other hand, too, sometimes it is that the entrepreneur can enter the market too late. So I always take a look at this whole idea of fidget spinners, and I remember seeing persons after months of the fidget spinners being on the market, that they started now buying to go and sell. And then by that time, prices started to drop. So a lot of those entrepreneurs who started buying and bringing it out later, they did not benefit, and therefore they made a loss on their investment. So we want to ensure that timing is not any major issue for the entrepreneur. Now it's time for a pop quiz. Business model. B, understanding how the business will make money. What is a common pitfall of poor financial management? Cash flow problems and business failure. What is the main benefit of having a viable business model? C, it allows the businesses to adapt to market changes. I want to thank you very much, and don't forget, like and subscribe to the Entrep Guru. Avinash Ramsky. Take care.